I got to watch him go up in there, and he had the, it was cool as all get out, because he did the, that's probably the one positive thing of it all, is that I got to watch myself get all put back together. And that was cool. This old dude, he had to have been in his mid 70s, but he came in and he used a fish hook and some fishing line, and some little tweezers and some funky little tools to go fish things out. And but I remember watching him going up in there to get my tendon that was up inside. It had sprung back up into my arm, and I'm sitting there watching him do what he's doing, and I'm not sure what he's doing. And then all of a sudden I see him pull the tendon out and grab a hold of it on the first opening, and then he grabs hold of it, and then he kind of uses another pair of tweezers to go under the second opening, and he yanks it out, and then he pulls it over, and then he's stretching my tendons like they're rubber bands, which is, I guess, what they really are.
Very much.
But yeah, he put me all back together. Everything was good at all. He goes, I saved you like $10,000 by doing this this operation right here in your hospital bed, because he didn't take me into the operating room or into whatever, they just did it right there in my hospital room on my bed. I sat there like this with my hand down like this and I'm just laying there on the bed with my hand sitting right here, just watching the whole thing.
Wow.
Oh, wow. He put a tourniquet up here on my arm. That it was an interesting tourniquet. It was like an air compressed, kind of like one of those things that you do blood pressure with, and it squeezed it down. And quite frankly, that was the most painful part of it, was the tourniquet, because as the time went by, I think it probably took him about maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes to do the work. And by the time it was done, my arm, my hand and everything, because of the shut off blood flow, was just hurting bad. I was just sitting there biting you of all people know all about pain. But for me, I was like, geez, get done, hurry up, get those last stitches done, And then when he released that tourniquet, I could feel the heat come back to my arm, and the pain just immediately went away. And now today I'm planning on taking this off, because the doc, I was talking to him and he was telling me that my skin, the flap of skin, that he was concerned about that and whether it was going to make it or not. And it went like probably about 6 hours before, it was like 5-6 hours before it got put back together. Is that too long a time?
No, I mean, I've had people that have had serious injuries out in the field that it's taken me longer to get them to the hospital and get them into surgery than that. And if trauma center is really bad, they may not see a surgeon for 8 hours. So you'll be all right. And you can probably use some 11.5 and different things to beauty water, try and minimize the scarring.
Well, I was, the doc was concerned that my skin was going to live and that I'd have to have a skin graft and that kind of thing. And do you, for me, I mean, looking at my pictures after he sewed it all back together, it looks pretty good to me. It looks like it's all going to be just fine, but I don't know. I'll find out later today, later on this afternoon. It'll be a week, and I'm going to take this thing off because I feel like I need to soak it in 11.5 and 2.5.
They usually.
My question for you is, should I go with 2.5 first? I'm thinking, what my thought was that I should soak it for a couple of minutes in 2.5 first, to disinfect everything, and then I should let that air dry. And then once that's all nice and dry, then I should take the 11.5 that I got from making the 2.5, and then I should soak it in that for, maybe 10-15 minutes.
They're usually going to tell you to keep it dry until everything seals up.
Yeah, but they don't know about Kong's water.
Yeah, I can't really advise you on that though. If you do it, let me know how it goes. But that would definitely go against what they would normally encourage for healing from surgery.
Right, but they don't know about, like I said, they don't know about Kangen water.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with Kong's water here, and that's why I feel a little bit different about it. I think that it's important for me to get the 2.5 in there. I think that might be one of the things that helped me right out of the chute. Is the first thing we did is dumped a bunch of 2.5 water on it.
I would agree with that. If you guys were needing some ground beef, there's easier ways to get it.
What's that?
I said, if you guys were needing some ground beef, there's easier ways to get it.
Yeah. Oh,
That wasn't right. That wasn't right. Morning, Ian. How
yeah,
you doing?
that was plenty right. I love it. I appreciate all the jokes, all the sarcasm, every bit of it. I deserve it all. I made a really boneheaded move by not turning my fan off, and the cool thing is I'll have a nice little smiley face scar right here on the back of my hand to remind me of this forever, so I can laugh at myself, because that's what my scar looks like.
That'd be good if the birdie still flies.
So Ian, what's shaking, brother? I mean, how the heck are you? I'm grateful to see you again as usual, and we're living in a crazy world, my friend, an absolutely insane world. And what do you have to say about it? What's going on? What kind of good, healthy information do we have to bestow on our friends and family today?
Well, I thought it would be a good idea to go back into some of the previous conversations that we had and just talk about stress and how it affects the body. And of course, I'm very limited, as you know, from a compliance standpoint of what I'm able to even talk about anymore. So I actually don't represent the Kangen brand anymore. I'm not actively selling Kangen machines. If somebody wants a machine and they reach out to me, then I'll still file the paperwork and make the sale. I'm supporting my downline team, but what I do mainly is counsel people on the nervous system, and I have a facility that's what we do. And I'm really tired of getting these emails from compliance telling me that I can't talk about what I do because I'm representing their company. So if I mention water to anybody, I mention electrolytes reduced water. I talk about PubMed studies, but you'll notice that I haven't even put anything out for their advertising, especially with the COVID issue, because we've got things that are EPA and CDC registered to take care of COVID. And I'll just promote those because they don't want us promoting this for healthy immune systems. So, but we can talk about the nervous system a little bit. I've had some really cool information that's come to light in Bible prophecy that's been fulfilled even this week. There's been some new stuff that's pretty neat. So if you guys want to know any of that, then I'm happy to share it.
Yeah, let's hear it, buddy. I love it.
So I've been telling you guys about the radio broadcasts that I do on Wednesdays. Let's see here.
You know, Bill Cox just made a comment over on the live side. He said, "I'd just spray it on it instead of soaking it."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Great idea, buddy. I'll do that."
That would be better than soaking it. So in China, they're closing churches, they're jailing pastors. There's been a lot of persecution of Christians, and I'm not finding the exact article that. Hang on, it was. So we'll go to The Guardian. I'll share my screen with you here. No. No, I won't. That's disabled. So, a few weeks ago, we were talking about how they wasted like thousands of acres of produce. They wasted all those crops.
Uh-huh.
And I was talking with my pastor during that time about a prophecy that's found in Amos chapter 8, actually. Let me get to the New King James here. It says, "Thus the Lord God showed me, behold, a basket of summer fruit." And he says, "Amos, what do you see?" I said, "A basket of summer fruit." And the Lord said to me, "The end has come upon my people. I will not pass by them any more. And the songs of the temple shall be wailing in that day, says the Lord God. Many dead bodies everywhere. They shall be thrown out in silence. Hear this, you who swallow up the needy and make the poor of the land fail, saying, when will the new moon be passed, that we may sell grain, and the Sabbath, that we may trade wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel large, falsifying the scales by deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of sandals, even sell bad wheat. The Lord has sworn by the pride of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. Shall the land not tremble for this, and everyone mourn who dwells in it? All of it shall swell like the river, heave and subside like the river of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day, says the Lord God, that I will make the sun go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in broad daylight. I will turn your feasts into mourning and your songs into lamentation. I will bring sackcloth on every waist and baldness on every head. I will make it like mourning for an only son, and its end like a bitter day. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord God, that I will send a famine on the land, not a famine of bread or a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of the Lord. They shall wander from sea to sea and from north to east. They shall run to and fro, seeking the word of the Lord, but shall not find it. In that day, the fair virgins and the strong men shall faint from thirst, those who swear by the sin of Samaria, who say, as your God lives, O Dan, as the way of Beersheba lives, they shall fall and never rise again. And so I thought it was really interesting. We were looking at this prophecy, and whenever we saw the acres and acres of fruit laid to waste, and we said, hey, basket of summer fruit. And had a conversation a couple of weeks later about how the sky hadn't been darkened since, basically the eclipse, the solar eclipse. And then I found this article last night that the skies over Beijing were darkened at noon as the government passed laws against Christians. And so there was a massive storm that came through, gale force winds, everything else. But it was an article in Back to Jerusalem And whenever I found it, here it is. It says the skies over Beijing turned black in the middle of the day as the government passed new laws against Christians. And they're calling it, the Epic Times was calling it an alarm from God. And so I really do believe that, especially in this time, we're going to start to see more and more. And everybody's talking about make America great again and get back to the way things were. And I think my biggest point that I would make to people right now during this time is things didn't go back to normal after 9/11. So what makes you think they're going to now?
Well, who says we even want the normal, the so-called normal?
Well, and I don't see how God can bless a nation that aborts 316,000 babies a year. I don't think that we can glorify a lot of the things that we've been glorifying and expect to be prosperous, because it's incompatible with life and liberty. And
You're right. You're right. I believe that.
I push for the Constitution a lot. I would even say I'm a constitutionalist, but first and foremost, I'm a Christian before I'm a conservative American. I'm not Republican. I'm not Democrat. I'm not a party guy. I believe that God gave us unalienable rights that were endowed to all people, that all men are equal, and that we're given rights that nobody's supposed to be able to take away. And eventually the tree of liberty gets a little bit dry and needs to be watered.
Yeah.
So
it is interesting when you read, and that's the unfortunate, that's why I'm always hammering on GICs, government indoctrination centers, because they don't teach the Constitution. I went through my 12 years of indoctrination and but I didn't learn anything about the Constitution. That's why when I read The Shadows of Power back in 1993, and I learned that everything I'd learned up to that point in my life at 27 years of age, that it was all a lie. Everything I'd learned, it was a lie. And I was pissed. I was so pissed when I found out that I'd basically been being lied to my whole life. And it opened up, it opened up the floodgates. And once there have been times where I've been like, wow, I wish I didn't know this, but I do. Tough titty, dude. You got it opened up to you. So you gotta continue with the truth. And so, yeah, there's so much, when you look at some of the things the founders said, it's prophecy. Literally, they called it. They could have been standing down on the street corner last freaking Friday night saying the things that they said over 200 years ago. And, it's just like the things that you're talking about here. They could have been standing on the street corner last Friday night saying things that they said 2,000 years ago. Amen, yeah, brother. I think it's sad that, I got to tell you this, and this is a real bummer that we can't actually tell the truth about what Kangen water does for the human body. It's not a matter of making medical claims. It's a matter of this is what it does, period. This is what the body does. This is how the body works. This is what it needs to do it. This is what happens. This is, it's all completely documented, but we can't talk about it. And we can't talk about it all because of one illegal entity called the Fraud and Death Administration. Most people know them as the Food and Drug Administration, but trust me, they don't give a rat about food. They only care about drugs. And they're
trying to shut down cigarette manufacturers.
Exactly. Yeah, that's okay with, they're not, well, of course they don't let they don't let cigarette manufacturers say that cigarettes are good for you. You know, there's no doctors anymore going, yeah, a cigarette a day keeps the doctor away, you know.
Hey, Camels were the #1 brand recommended by doctors for years and years.
Exactly.
More doctors recommend Camels than any other brand. Now, less throat irritation. Well, but
So what's
so
this?
on,
So
on
what do
that
you do?
topic, if you've got an electrochemical antioxidant with a high bioavailability, and you've got stuff coming at you all day that's causing an increase of oxidative stress in the body, we know that oxidative stress is going to produce reactive oxygen species in the body, which is going to lead to free radical cells. They're losing electrons. And so they're losing that overall charge on their outer shell. They're becoming unstable and they want to stabilize. So they're going to start going around. Those free radicals are going to rob electrons from healthy cells, turning them into free radicals. And it creates this chain where the cells metastasize in an improper fashion. They just start replicating improperly. All right, like they're rioting. You need to neutralize that riot. So you need a bunch of electrons. Well, scientific evidence has shown that the best thing to fight reactive oxygen species in the body is activated molecular hydrogen. Abundance of electrons. It's the best antioxidant, the most bioavailable antioxidant on the face of the planet.
And I'd love if you could clarify something for me, because this is something that Wetz and I have had some discussion about. And so when you take an ORP meter and you test vitamin C, it's a -60, which would be a negative 0.60.
Right.
Correct? And then you test like 9.5 water out of my K8 right here at my house, and it is a negative 963. 963 versus 0.060. What is the extrapolation of the difference between the two? How much more powerful is the oxidative reduction potential between 0.060 and 0.963? Isn't that like thousands of times of difference? Because you're talking tenths, hundreds, thousands.
Yeah. And I don't have enough Kangen water or coffee in my system to do the math on that this morning. But yeah, it's a lot more than what it looks like.
Yeah, because we're not talking like 10 times more powerful.
No, you're talking thousands.
That's what I thought, because it's exponential and it's based, we're talking tenths, hundreds, thousands. And so I'd love to get a really solid number on that at some point, just to,
because
bring that to people's attention, because sometimes that's what it takes, is you have to come up with solid numbers and solid information that will get their brain cell to actually turn and work.
Yep. Yeah, we still give the water to our clients when we're working with them, doing re-education stuff. And I actually had a guy that messaged me the other day. I worked with him on, we were rehabbing for legs, and then I sent him through a core workout, did some abs, and followed it up with arms. And I just had him do 2 supersets. I used several different frequencies with the newbie, but he did 10 bicep curls and then 10 Arnolds pressing up over his head. And he did 2 sets like that. Basically, 20 and 20 reps. And texted me 2 days later. He said, "My arms have never been this sore in my life."
Yeah. Oh, brother, I can't wait to, I'm after we get done with this show, if you've got some time, or as soon as you do have some time, I want to show you a couple of things that I'm working on.
Yeah.
And you might even want to institute them, because I know you got some things similar to what I'm doing planned, and you might want to, utilize this in your own capacity. But so we got a -60 with vitamin C, negative 0.060 on the ORP meter. The oxidation reduction potential, or the potential to reduce oxidation, if you want to reverse it. I like that. But so we got a negative 900. We got a negative 600 on, most people, their machines, when they're doing their 9.5 water and they're running it at a relatively slow rate, they're getting like a negative 600 or something like that. Me, I've got some of the most amazing water in the world here where I live, and I get super high. Like I said, I get a negative 960 on my 9.5 running slow. What's the difference for our nervous system? Because we were going to talk about that, right? We were going to talk about our nervous system and how this all is affected, how, and hopefully we can kind of do a little bit of a roundabout as to, how all of this pertains to our ability to defend for our body to defend itself against viruses and bacteria. And, as we're continuing to learn, then the viruses are commonplace in our body. We're literally built on viruses. We're built on bacteria. We're built on germs, and it's so interesting, all this stuff. That's one thing I can say I'm grateful for with this whole pandemic, is that I've learned so much. And same thing with being involved with Kangen Water, or people like you. I've learned so much that I didn't know. I honestly didn't understand this stuff, and now I'm starting to. I certainly don't understand it in full, but I'm starting to. So how does this affect us? What do we do? Why is this so important? What do you want to drop on us about it?
I've learned so much about our bodies and our immune systems over the past couple of months that I didn't even know. I mean, they had to shut you down from being able to say that things like vitamin C and vitamin A and vitamin D are good for you, and that they strengthen your immune system, or elderberry. None of that stuff works. None of it boosts your immune system at all. None of it has antiviral or antibacterial properties. And so we have to stop people from talking about that on the internet, regardless of where they got their education. Can't say those things, because the only thing that can help you now is a vaccine. So that being said, our bodies are electrical beings. I mean, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Everything that happens within your body starts with the nervous system. And if your body doesn't have the right energy, if it doesn't have the right amount of charge to make things happen, as you lose your cell voltage, you're familiar with Jerry Tennant. You start out with 120 millivolts, and whenever you get down to about 60 millivolts in a cell, you end up with all of these disease processes that we can't talk about because the American Medical Association has the treatment codes. And so what you want to do is get that voltage back up so that your body can heal and function the way that it's supposed to. I try and tell people all the time that we're self-healing and self-regulating. But it's getting really, really ridiculous. And so I don't know if I can share my screen here. Let me see. No.
I should be able to.
It says host has screen sharing disabled.
No, well, hold on here. I don't know why. You should be able to. Let's just do that. Let's see if that works.
Aha, there it is.
Beautiful.
So let's start with this one. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've talked about what I primarily work with is the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system is divided into three branches. I focus on two with people just to keep it simple, and that's the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight, versus your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest. So whenever you're put in a position of fear and anxiety, it triggers a basic survival mechanism that causes your body to respond to a dangerous situation with a fight or flight response. So that's an essential part of protecting yourself and keeping yourself safe. You know, caveman sees a tiger and he says, oh, this tiger is going to pounce on me and turn me into a lunch. I need to get out of here. So he's either going to fight, he's going to run away, or he's going to freeze in fear. So fear actually prepares us to react to danger. When we see a potential threat, our body releases hormones and starts producing proteins to deal with that situation. Now, when that happens, it's going to slow down functions that you don't need at that moment. So if you're preparing for a fight, you're not thinking about eating, you're not thinking about sleeping, you're not thinking about digesting food, you're not thinking about having sex. This is why people who deal with chronic pain for years and years will lose their sex drive. They'll lose their ability to enjoy things. They'll notice that they're still putting on weight when they can't eat. And I actually heard somebody making light of that, you know, people can lose their appetite and still have weight gain, but your body will latch on to fluids and you'll create water weight. And that's also a part of the stress process. But this fight or flight is also going to sharpen functions that will help you survive. So your pupils are going to dilate to let in more light, and you're going to become, it's almost like a state of hyperarousal. Your heart rate increases, your blood flow to your muscles, but all of your blood flow is going to shunt towards the heart and towards the core because you don't need your fine motor functions. So you'll lose some of the dexterity in your fingertips. Your body's also going to increase the flow of hormones, and it's going to cause your adrenal glands to produce more adrenaline. So anytime somebody's in this state for any length of time, after a while, they're going to develop what we would refer to as adrenal fatigue, where their adrenal glands get tired, they're not producing enough adrenaline, and whenever the adrenals start to shut down, they're going to compensate by, you know, producing more TSH. Their thyroid is going to try and pick up. And then when the thyroid becomes fatigued, it's going to go further down the line on the endocrine system.
What's TSH? Just so people know what that is. What's TSH?
Thyroid stimulating hormone. And so all of this comes back to your stress hormones. But if you're in a state of stress and hyperarousal, one of the primary hormones that's going to be produced by your body during that time is an inflammatory hormone called cortisol. And cortisol increases the oxidative stress within the body. It's going to, inflammation and stress causes a breakdown of tissue. And so that brings me to the other thing that I wanted to share. I got my little hamster guy here. Whenever I made this slide, you know, I made it because I deal with a lot of the CRPS and the chronic pain stuff. And I always tell people, you know, hey, do you feel like this hamster? Do you ever feel like this hamster?
Thankfully, no, but
well, it's such a great illustration, though, because
I know.
We get on the hamster wheel of society and just absolutely burn ourselves out, and people don't realize it. So a lot of this information comes from the American Institute of Stress, and there's some interesting figures that I know I've shared them with you before, but undoubtedly there will be people that watch this that haven't seen our previous discussions. So in the biopsychosocial definition of stress, the external component is made up of elements in the external environment. So we would call that exogenous, right? Being outside of the body that is causing a change on the inside of the body. The internal component in this definition of stress consists of physiological, biochemical factors in the internal environment of the body. That's also going to be psychological.
So real quick, Ian, on that first one, the first one up there, the
Yes.
external component, will you kind of extrapolate on that while you're explaining, going through that? Because I can already see it. I can see people out there that are going to listen to this, and that's all going to go right over their head because they don't even understand what you're talking about.
Right.
They don't understand what's this external thing you're talking about. And so maybe as you go back to sharing and you go through that, just give our audience some examples as to what kind of external things that they can relate to that is causing that right there. What are they feeling? They're scared of somebody sneezing next to them or something. I don't know. But maybe as you go through that, just kind of like give us just one example or maybe two examples of what is actually happening so that they can relate to it, because they're not going to grasp this without some sort of explanation of what's actually happening while they're on their hamster wheel.
Right. Yeah, I fully intend to elaborate on this.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to, that was what came to my mind at first, is like, people aren't going to get this unless we tell them.
If you're going to Walmart and you've got the contact tracers outside the door that are pinging your cell phone with their iPad and taking account of everybody that goes in and out of the store, and you're noticing that you've got the people who are paying attention to the arrows on the floor and maintaining a good 6-foot social distance, and they're wearing their plastic Walmart sack over their head like a good little lemming so that they don't catch the virus. Is that going to increase the stress that you feel in your body or decrease it? Is that going to make you feel good about being an American citizen?
Well, I gotta admit, brother, I can't stand going out now. I don't even want to go out amongst society right now because it just makes me sick to see all these people wearing their masks, all these people just doing this stuff that's so horrible for them. It's like I shared out that picture of the young kid out on the golf course, and he's on the putting green, and he's, maybe 12, 13, 14 years old, and he's out there putting in a beautiful sunshiny day, with nobody around him, and he's got his freaking mask on. And I shared it out and I said, heartbreaking. That's all I said, heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking.
What's even more heartbreaking is the kids that are having heart attacks in PE class because they're running with masks on their face and they're rebreathing all of their CO2 and ending up with hypoxemia.
So have you been running into a lot of this kind of stuff? You've been seeing a lot of this? Because I think I've been telling people this is happening. These things are horrible for people, and they're going to kill a lot of people, and it's going to cause a lot of damage, but we're not seeing anything about it. I'm not seeing any posts, not seeing any news, and so this is what I would ask is anything like that you run into, will you please share it with me so that I can share it out with the world?
I've been sharing a lot
left and right,
but it's getting shut down.
Yeah, well, never. I'm going to get it out there on Library and these other areas where they can't shut it down. And, the more people that keep sharing it, the less ability they have to shut it down. and having it, because, you know, it's like, hey, sure, Facebook can shut it down, Twitter can shut it down, but they can't, you know, I can still text message it to a friend, and, you know, they can't shut us down. They can't shut the truth down. They're trying like crazy, but it ain't going to happen. And the more they keep trying, the more we're going to keep slipping through their fingers. Like Princess Leia said to Darth Vader in the original Star Wars movie, the more you keep clenching down, the more things are going to slip through your fingers. And, you know, so that's the way I see it happening. I see that as Facebook continues to do what they're doing, the MeWes of the world are starting to come into the house. And as YouTube's doing what they're doing, the libraries and BitChutes and Brighteons of the world are coming into the house. So they're not going to get away with it, brother. We're not going to let them. So anyway, I want to hear this whole, you know, neurological side of things, our nervous system, because we are a bunch of nervous nillies right now, man. People are all nervous and crazy and freaked out, and I'm doing the best I can to try and help them not be nervous. And, you know, I tried to set a good example with what happened here. You know, it's like, hey, I did it. But champions never quit, and they persevere. This is just another hurdle to jump over. And so we got to be positive about whatever it is that happens.
I was looking for a link that I shared this morning, but as soon as I shared the link, Facebook shut it down. It wouldn't post it. There was no like, comment, share, anything. It never ended up on my news feed or my timeline. And it just sat at the top of my news feed like it was posting for about 20 minutes before it finally disappeared. But it was a PragerU post.
What? With things like that, brother, take those links when you got them before you share them out to Facebook. Like maybe send me a text message, send Wetz a text message, send Rodgar a text message, and just send us the actual link and just tell us what you're doing. And then we can expand upon it. And, you know, we can do the same thing, and we can have a nice little social experiment, find out what these knuckleheads are doing. And
Did you see this website before?
No. What is it?
Called Space Busters.
Space.
And if you tried to share those videos on Facebook, not even load up. They're all blocked. And the way I came through this, somebody sent it to me, but the way I figured it out, Julio Rios had shared a video, and it said Kangen Water video, a minute and a half or something. So I clicked on it, and then it was 45 minutes. So somebody hacked the link, threw the other one in the back, but that only took a couple of days, and that was gone. But I remember what they were talking about, Mission 2130. So I Googled it, and I found it on YouTube. I sent a link to my friend on YouTube. He watched it, and then he sent it to his friend, and he watched it one day half, and then he wanted to watch it the next day, the other half, and it was gone. So he asked me, where do I got it again? I said, and then I Googled it again. Google redirected me to another YouTube channel, still had it. So then he watched that one, and after a couple of days, that YouTube channel was disappeared again too, because it said something about violence was ticking off. So then I found the website, actually the website what has all the videos. And I can send it to you. You can watch all the videos. It's from 1 to 5, the explanation from Corona and the symptoms about 5G, the same thing about coronavirus. And it's interesting what they're telling in that video. So I sent it the other day to JJ. I don't know if he looked into it or not.
Send it to me. I'd like to look into it.
I will.
Here's a post I was talking about. It's still there. Can't do anything with it.
So it's locked, right?
Yep. So if I long click, it'll give me the option to copy text, but can't delete it, can't repost it, nothing. And basically what I said, I said the comments on this post are simply amazing. I think ZBag and FB are losing altitude, because it was a post talking about how conservative sources are being censored on Facebook. And the people that follow Prager were just, I mean, they were chewing him up in the comments. And it was really unbelievable. It's like, this guy is almost as hated as Bill Gates right now for what he's doing. And never in my life have I seen somebody be able to go before like the Supreme Court and the United Nations and just decide that they don't want to answer questions for the world governments. Oh yeah, I'm not going to answer that. It's unreal. So John asked a question. He said, I have a question. Why don't we drink the 11.5 instead of the 9.5? Wouldn't that be better for us? So number one, the company does not suggest that you drink 11.5 water. The strong waters, 11.5 and 2.5, are not for drinking purposes. That being said, my wife and I will usually do a kind of like a detox where we drink about 28 to 32 ounces of 11.5, sometimes 16 ounces of 11.5 at night before we go to bed. We always follow that up with 9.5 immediately. So, you know, we'll drink a little bit and then we'll give it 5 or 10 minutes and then drink a bunch of 9.5 so that we don't over alkalize. But viruses, especially within the body, are very susceptible to pH, and they've got a very fine pH that they like to live in. There's a lot of diseases that don't respond well to an alkaline environment. And so one of the things that we do for ourselves is, for a period of time, we will drink the 11.5 water. You don't want to do that for too long because it'll cause your body to produce things that are not compatible with health. We'll leave it at that. So for a couple of weeks, it's usually okay to do.
I mean,
Thank you.
as for me, Johnny Potter, I've talked to you about this before. I don't care what anybody else does, whatever. You do what you want to do. I'm kind of like Bob Wright. This is what I do. You do what you want to do. I drink 28 ounces of 11.5 every single night before I go to bed, every night. And ever since I started doing that, I have the most amazing sleep, the most amazing dreams. And I feel so much better and everything, you know, I mean, whatever, people can do what they want to do. And I'm with Dr. Michael when it comes to the alkalinity, because we're not talking about alkalinity. We're talking about alkalization. It's alkalized water. It's not alkaline water. And there's a huge difference. One is electricity. The other one is chemicals. And the body is not looking for electricity. It's looking for chemicals when it comes to changing the pH of the blood, when it comes to changing the pH of the stomach and things like that. It's not looking for electricity to make changes. It's looking for chemicals. And we're not putting any chemicals into it. We're using electricity, and the body's electrical. And so that's why I believe that using the 11.5, and quite frankly, I've had multiple people that I've given my advice to that have used what I do, and it has made all the difference in the world for them. And so whatever, I'm not a doctor, I'm just me. I'm just like Bob Wright. This is what I do. You do what you want to do. You make your own decisions, you make your own choices, you do your own reading, you do your own learning, just like I've done. Because I was told when I got this machine that I shouldn't drink the 11.5 water. But as I did my research, as I did my looking and digging and trying to find out what is right, what's wrong, what is it. That's what I do, you know, whatever. I feel great, except for, you know, sticking my getting the attack of the swamp cooler. But anyway, so that's where I'm rolling with it, Johnny Potter. We've talked about that, and you know, do what you're gonna do, brother. Do what
Yes,
makes
it's
you
not.
good.
John, did you have a question? Your mic was muted.
No, I just wanted to point out that my son asked that. I just don't, and I told him, I said, you can drink it, it's fine. I just don't personally drink it because I don't like the taste. You know, it would, you know, I don't see any harm that it might do to me, but I haven't really, you know, started a regimen on, like, for instance, on what JJ does. You know, and I don't know, I'm kind of getting to where I just love the taste of my 9-5 so much that can't really drink much else. You know, even just regular tap water from somewhere else without like cringing at the thought. So
Yep, absolutely. And we've got athletes that love to drink 11.5 because they recover faster from their workouts whenever they drink 11.5 afterwards. And it's not like, you know, if you drink Essentia water, you have to worry about toxicity building up in your system. Rodgar's got himself a glass of 9.5. You know, the Essentia water is actually listed in the U.S. Pharmacopoeia because it's got sodium bicarbonate in the water to make it alkaline. This, we're talking about a very high ORP, but you're actually electrolyzing saline, basically, salt water, to be able to get that strong ORP from your 11.5 and to create your 2.5. But we've got folks that love it because they'll do a super strong workout, drink a glass of 11.5, and man, they won't even really get sore. So.
Hey, Ian, I got something that I want to ask you about. Well, somebody over on the live side, Justin Wynn, he said, I believe that unless we put a plastic bag over our head or breathe through a paper bag, then we may suffer from hypercapnia. Otherwise, breathing through a mask shouldn't cause a problem. In clean rooms, people work in masks all the time, and it hasn't been a problem. Now, however, per social distancing, if we are not around other people during this COVID-19, then we don't need to have our mask on because we need to allow our system to keep its normal immunity against germs. I think he's trying to say that it's okay to be wearing these masks.
And I'm not here to, you know, if people want to cover their face, cover your face. Just don't expect me to feel like less of a human being because I'm not going to do that. The thing about the immune system that nobody is understanding right now is that, you know, I'm seeing all the CDC guidelines for kids going back to school, and they want all the kids masked, and they want them maintaining a 6-foot social distance, and they're going to take away all of their elective activities, and they can't go to cafeteria, they can't have shared spaces, they have to sit at a desk with plexiglass around them, and every time they touch something, they've got to sanitize it with a Clorox wipe. We're putting kids in a bubble and covering their face, which anytime you obstruct the airway, you're going to end up rebreathing some CO2. You're going to affect your oxygen intake. And we need that oxygen-rich air to transfer at the alveoli and the lungs because that goes through and that oxygenates our entire body. And yes, people work in clean rooms. I mean, I worked hazmat. I worked in the medical field for years and years. I would go into a patient room with an ear loop mask on or with an N95 respirator on. But why is everybody so up in arms about people not wearing ear loop masks whenever ear loop masks are not even rated for virus? They offer no protection against a virus. They don't even offer a micron rating that'll protect against a virus. And yeah, you guys are covering your mouth and walking around with your nose exposed all the time. Or if you are wearing your mask properly, it's not properly fitted to your face. It's not fit tested. You haven't put a hood over your head with a mask on and sprayed saccharin in there to make sure that you're not getting any air leakage around the mask. So, I mean, there's people that are showing that this stuff won't even block drywall dust. How's it going to block a virus? And on top of that, your eyes aren't covered. So the problem that I have with PPE that's being improperly used by people is that nobody is following standard precautions. These masks and the gloves that everybody wearing are giving them a false sense of security. Does anybody know that whenever you touch an ear loop mask, whenever it's being worn on your face and you reposition that with either your gloved hand or your ungloved hand, you've lost 100% of the efficacy of that mask. It no longer provides any protection from anything because it's contaminated. It has to be properly disposed of, thrown away, and then you have to get a brand new mask. And you're supposed to throw them out.
Tell it.
So when we take these masks off of our face and let them rest on the handle of the shopping cart and then hang them from our rear view mirror, wearing the same gloves that we used to go through and pick all of the canned food up and the boxed food in the grocery store, put it in our cart, touch our cart, you know, pick up all the produce, cross-contaminate the produce, touch the pin pad on the checkout after we've used the handheld scanner and still wearing those same gloves and that same mask when you're driving home and then taking all of that into your house and your kids. How is that protecting you? Can anybody answer that question for me? Because what I'm seeing, and I'm getting railed for this. I'm getting absolutely railed for this, and I do not care because it goes against basic science. You're cross-contaminating everything, and it's a false sense of security.
Amen, brother. I love it. And you know, the truth of the matter is where he says that it hasn't been a problem. Justin, how do you know that? How do you know that it hasn't been a problem? You know, people, we have all these problems in our society, all these health issues that they don't even get attributed to the things that cause the problem in the first place. Like when you're sitting in here breathing all this extra carbon dioxide into your system, which is creating all this extra cortisol, which is creating all of this extra oxidation in your body and all these extra free radicals. It's not like all of a sudden, like you just go, you know, well, sometimes you do. And I want to find out about these things. I want to know about these instances where people are just dropping in the grocery store. When people are, you know, we've heard stories of people are wearing their mask while they're driving and they pass out and they crash into somebody, they crash into a pole, whatever, they kill themselves or somebody else. That's an immediate effect of the problem. What about the problems that are being caused down the road that you're not even, because every time that you get extra oxidative stress into your body, it's like I always say with water. Water is a poison because it's acid. It's literally acid, and it causes your body to do what's called catabolize itself. That's where your body eats itself. It's when, you know, cannibalizing is when you eat somebody else. Don't do that.
So,
Don't eat yourself either. And you know,
I want to touch on this because I'm not trying to piss anybody off. I'm not trying to rip anybody, but we need to discuss this because this is a huge deal. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Clinicaltrials.gov. This is from the National Institutes of Health. Okay, right here. Wearing N95 masks results in hypercapnia, which reduces the working efficiency and the ability to make correct decisions. Medical staff are at increased risk of getting severe acute respiratory syndrome, and wearing N95 masks is highly recommended for experts worldwide. However, dizziness, headache, and shortness of breath are commonly experienced by the medical staff wearing N95 masks. The ability to make correct decisions may be hampered too. The purpose of the study was therefore to evaluate the physiological impact of N95 masks on medical staff. Whenever we wear these things in the healthcare field, we wear them because we're trying to protect immunocompromised patients, but also somebody may be coming in with something that, we want to protect ourselves from droplet or anything else that they may be exposed to. But we're wearing them for short periods of time and always in an acute environment. So until there was this massive shortage, the proper procedure would be that if you're getting ready to go into a patient's room, you would wash your hands with soap and water, and you would grab some foam hand sanitizer, and you would rub that on, and you put on your booties, and you put on your gown, and you put on your first set of gloves, and then you put your mask and your goggles on, and then you put on another set of gloves, and then you go in. Or usually the second set of gloves goes on whenever you enter the patient's room. That way you haven't touched anything outside of the room. And then as you're leaving, you walk to the door and there's a biohazard receptacle there, and you take your gloves off by looping the inside of the glove and then looping the inside of the glove, and then you take your gown off. You do everything in such a way that you're not touching the outside of your gear. You roll the outside of that to the inside and throw it in a bag, and then you immediately go and wash your hands with soap and water. I'm not seeing any of that happen. And I'm not seeing people, very rarely do I see somebody put on a new set of gloves and touch the gas pump and then take the gloves off properly after they're done pumping gas before they get into their car. Most people are getting right back into their vehicle, touching the steering wheel, touching the radio. Oh, you want a juice box, honey? Here you go. That's not going to do anything. These masks that everybody are wearing to protect themselves are not properly fitted to their faces. And if you're trying to protect yourself against a virus, you're going to wear a minimum of an N95. You're going to wear a mask, a hood. I mean, this is just not it. It's not it. Your bandana doesn't work. Yeah. Crocheted masks do not work. Cloth masks with a coffee filter do not work. Socks do not work. I've seen people use underwear, and I've seen people use like a ear loop mask and then wear a water cooler over their head. That doesn't work. It doesn't. And so hypercapnia is a real thing. And yeah, there you go, Ragar.
Yep,
Sorry.
I got this from work. They have it there for free, so that it makes no sense for me.
Sorry, buddy. That's not rated.
Oh, the same here. I only have it along to clean my glasses. Like it's 100% cotton. It works good to clean my glasses.
The governor has mandated that we wear them to work too. I'll show you mine.
Oh, this ought to be good. Wait, this ought to be great. This is how the Voltinator rolls. Justin,
High
this is
voltage,
a mask that'll protect you against a virus. Oh, Lordy, have mercy on me. Oh.
It's actually got a Patriot skull here.
Patriot skull. Yeah, there we go.
That's fine. So, but it's not tightly fitted to my face, right? So I'm not covering my eyes again. So if somebody sneezed in my face, it's not even going to block anything. Like, this won't block a fart. It won't.
It still smells like a fart.
Whenever, I'm not being crude here, but whenever somebody farts, do you know why you smell it? literally.
No,
Because-
not really. Not
because
It
technically.
stinks.
particles from the inside of their anus have made it through their genes into your nose. Not joking.
What do you got to say
Rocket
about that?
science.
Wes?
You know, I heard that
Rocket
before.
science
I thought-
401.
I totally thought that was like just somebody being smart. You know?
Ah, I can't believe that. I thought they were pulling my leg.
Thanks, dude.
It's like I was in Walmart the other day and farted in an aisle, and a woman said, "You're really gross." I said, "Yeah, well, you're standing too close and your mask doesn't work."
I wish I would have paid. I didn't know you were having a show. I'm out mowing my lawn at the. I come in to just take a break, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm checking out my Facebook, and I see Kong Show Live, the Voltinator. I'm like, Monday, Memorial Day, and we are rocking it like Herbie Hancock. I better get it together. And I'm mowing in my jazz hat there, Johnson, if you like that one.
Love it, dude. Love it.
So yeah, sorry I didn't get on earlier. Good grief.
No, it's all good. We were just discussing the futility of wearing underwear over our faces.
Oh, dude, I love it. I'm the one-armed typing bandit now, and I gotta, you know, why do you smell a fart? My Lord. That's gonna, I'll tell you what, that one's gonna blow some things up.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, though, ultimately what that is it's a particle that is traveling through the air that's carrying that scent. And so, what is a virus? It's a particle that's traveling through the air. And so, if you're getting, I mean, I gotta shut myself down. I'll get crude. I'll start using terms like anal seepage, and I mean,
Nice.
Roll with it, brother.
Sounds
Roll with it.
drippy.
Let's have it. Man, this is the Car Family
Sounds
Show. We
drippy.
shoot straight around here.
I was a paramedic, right? No, I mean, if you're getting that kind of stuff through, I mean, if you're still getting that kind of exposure, if drywall dust can get around your mask, but on top of that, people are reusing the mask because there's a shortage. And so my issue with it, and anybody can challenge me on this. I mean, I used to teach this stuff. That's what I did for a living. And I've had all the classes. I've been taught in bloodborne pathogens, and I've done hazardous materials and infectious disease and weapons of mass destruction and mass casualty, and like the classes that we get from the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I've done these classes. I've had years upon years of this training because that's what I did for over a decade. And not only did I do it, I taught a lot of this stuff. So if we're reusing these masks, if we're constantly touching them, and we're constantly transferring from surface to surface, and then, you know, you got the thing hanging in your windshield, and I mean, guys, none of this makes sense. Absolutely none of it makes sense. And then we're going to arrest and jail people for not covering their faces or for going to the park with their kids. We've shut down farmers markets because people can't be at a farmer's market buying organic produce outside in the sun when vitamin D neutralizes the virus. Oh, sunlight gives you cancer. Oh, your sunscreen with all of the chemicals in it mixed with the chlorine water from your swimming pool is causing the chemical reaction that gives you skin cancer. Like,
It might not make any sense, Ian, but at the end of the day, I think we're realizing that it's making dollars.
It's totally making dollars, dude. It is. Because you can't patent a plant.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off of my soapbox.
Ian, before we got off onto the fun little mask tangent, we were talking about our nervous system.
Yeah.
If you've still got time, I'd still love to get into that because I think it's important that people understand what is happening to their nervous system, to their, you know, we're all basically being put into a fright system, you know, where we're scared shitless. I've got one friend on Facebook that she's been posting over and over and over again how scared she is about all this stuff. And she's just there, and I've got, you know, there's just so many people, you know it, I know it, we all know it. There's a bunch of people that are just scared half out of their dang minds. How do we help quell this? What is going on here? And what is that fear? Because this seems to me the best way to quell it is to help people understand that they don't need to be scared. We're being scared of a freaking boogeyman. How do we help them stop being scared with some real information? And that's what it seems to me that you were on the way to providing, and we got off into a little fun tangent. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed the heck out of that. But you know, let's move on. What's up with the nervous system? How's this all affecting us, and how can we quell it?
And just one more thing on that. I do have a mask that I keep in my car that's rated for viruses and all that good stuff. Because whenever I was working as a paramedic in the field, one of the jobs I did was I was going to be called to respond to Ebola 1 if we had an Ebola outbreak in our response area. And so we had an ambulance that we had taped up with sheet plastic, and the back of the ambulance was a totally isolated area so that it's just you and that patient. And one of the things I did is I purchased one of the masks for myself that we use, and it's a Scott self-contained breathing apparatus face piece that completely seals around my face. I wouldn't be able to use it now because of my hair. I wouldn't fit test with it. But normally I've just got the goatee. And so it completely seals around my face, and then it's got a canister that is specifically rated for blocking pathogens and viruses and everything like that. Now, I don't carry that in my car because I'm worried about a virus. I carry that in my car because there's a very real threat that somebody like North Korea could potentially attack the United States with nerve gas. And there was a 60 Minutes special in January talking about how everybody in that country, from men and women in their 30s down to the kids that are going to the arcade who are 8 years old, want to kill Americans. And these kids are going to the arcade, and the games that they're playing are shooting games, and they're killing Americans. And they're talking about it on 60 Minutes, talking about, whenever I grow up, I want to kill Americans. So that's why I keep the mask. And, I'm not putting faith in my 45 over, what I'm putting in Jesus. But at the same time, I think that there's a place to be prepared. If something like that happened, I want to be able to throw that on my wife's face and her be protected, right? And so, but we can't lose our ability to critically think for ourselves. We can't go to the news for the information that we need. I mean, if we were to trust CNN or any of the mainstream media on any of this, with all the toilet paper that was bought at the beginning of this pandemic, the virus should have been neutralized. Okay? All right, I'm done. I'm done.
No, you're not. You're just getting started, brother. Hey, Wetzel. Wetzel, what do
Yeah.
you think about this? Hey, Ian, show him that hamster wheel. He didn't get to see that. Look at that hamster wheel, Wets.
I think he may have.
Oh my
Popped off.
God. No, and look, people have been thinking this for the last 3 months. I mean, I've been just assaulted online. I've had relatives block me after just laying into me and just insulting me. I'm an idiot. I'm arrogant. I'm a know-it-all. I'm a phony. I'm like, good Lord, you guys, I'm just trying to help you wake up to it. You know, but I'm disrespectful. You know, what are you going to do, man? I mean, people are just stupid. You can't fix that. And I mean, honestly, all I can do is pray for them. And I say that. I'm like, all right, well, keep praying for you. But, you know, next thing you know, I'm blocked and, oh, it's crazy stuff.
So anyway, sorry about that, Ian. Come on, let's get into the nervous system. I want to know what's going on here. I want people to understand
Yeah, what's the nerve gas thing? I don't get what are
going
you
on
talking
here?
about there?
Yeah, I was. I'll send you the report, buddy. I'll send you
I
the.
saw a quick link on it. I didn't get to read it, but it's probably in there, right? That link you posted?
No, that was different. I was showing you the mask that I've got because everybody's talking about mask providing protection.
That's a mask. I
That's
even
a
saw
mask.
people using like 2-liter bottles and stuff, man.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
But it looks cool, and that's what people are shooting for. They want to believe it works, so God bless it, it's gonna work.
I saw a dude walking around Walmart the other day that had like, you remember the masks that they used to wear like around the time of the bubonic plague, like the bird mask,
No.
beak
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
yeah.
He was wearing that with like the full black gown. So
That's creepy.
You got to get pictures of things like that.
I may have it somewhere. All right. So again, we're talking about the fight or flight response. So again, you know, external components. I think we've kind of covered what stresses us out externally, right? It's going to cause your internal environment to become a stressful internal environment. So the interaction between these two, it represents the cognitive process that results from the internal and external is stress in your body. And so there's, all right, so anytime you have stress, anytime you encounter a stressful situation, there's always going to be a physiological response. There's always going to be a mental effect to stress, and there's always going to be a physical effect to stress. And the same organization, hang on, let me get back to this. The same organization, the American Institute of Stress, okay, the way that they define stress, they say that any definition of stress that does not include potentially dangerous physical responses is an incomplete or an insufficient definition of stress. So the stress response is the name given to the hormonal and metabolic changes which follow injury or trauma. But as we've talked about in previous discussions, the body responds to stress the same way that it responds to injury. And so you don't have to have an injury to have pain in your body. I do an entire presentation on that. It's called Unmasking Pain. And we talk about how pain is a neurological response to a perceived threat, not necessarily an actual threat or actual injury. You can have pain and not have injury. And similarly, you can have an injury and not feel pain. So some of the physical reactions that are experienced during stress include high blood pressure and headaches. Your digestion will either speed up or shut down to where you'll either have diarrhea or you won't be able to poop, won't be able to digest food. You can have skin issues from that. So if we look at this chart for the fight or flight response, you're going to get dry mouth, your pupils are going to dilate, your blood vessels are going to constrict on your extremities, you'll get chills and sweating, your heart rate speeds up, you start to get the tremors, right? Your digestive enzymes decrease because your body's not thinking about digesting food. Your adrenals are going to uptick and produce more adrenaline. Your muscles become tense. Quick, deep breathing, shallow breathing. So your oxygen exchange is actually going to decrease. Movement of food through your bowels slows down because all of that blood has just shunted away from your digestive system and it's sent a little bit more to your legs so that you can run away, and it's sent a bunch of it up here to the heart. Again, your blood pressure is going to go up and your major vessels are going to dilate. And so whenever we talk about the stress cycle, we're talking about a stressor that occurs, and then you have a reaction to stress. After that reaction begins, there's wear and tear on your body organ systems that wasn't there before. Your optimum health is reduced, and you have an increased sensitivity to subsequent stress. American Institute of Stress, again, a definition of stress that does not refer to the role of the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis or stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system and adrenaline secretion in the fight or flight response should also be considered to be a deficient definition of stress. Any definition of stress that doesn't talk about that state of hyperarousal, fight or flight, panic that is created when you're in a state of long-term, steady state, constant stress is it's a deficient definition. So they're literally saying that there is always going to be this physiological response. There's always going to be a fight or flight response from a stressful situation, which is why, you know, we get angry, we get agitated, we get short with people. Blood pressure goes up, your armpits start sweating, right? And then after if it's a quick boom and you're done and everything comes back to normal, you're going, oh man, you know, I carry my stress in my shoulders is what everybody always says. Well, Jerry Tennant talks about muscle batteries and the innervation that goes through this area with the upper traps and the scalene muscles and just rhomboids, everything across the back here. It's for your sympathetic innervation. It's for your fight or flight innervation. So anytime that area gets hyper aroused, this is the universal stress response, right? Shoulders tense up and I tighten up. And so like my entire goal in what I do is getting people from this to this. People don't realize what this is doing to their bodies. And whenever they go into this state that they're in, immune system is flat. Body's not even thinking about protecting you because it's too busy producing inflammatory hormones. It's too busy keeping up with the hyperarousal of the adrenal glands and everything else that it's got to do to keep up this fight or flight that everybody's in. Your mask is not protecting you.
Wow, what a great, you know, kids, you're not doing yourselves any good by being scared. I think you just spelled that out pretty sweet right there. What do people do about it? What's our recommendation for, you know, no, we're not doctors. No, we're just telling you what we would do. This is what Ian would do. This is what I would do. This is what Wetz would do. This is what Johnny or Rodgar would do. What would you do, Ian?
Well, so I'm not going to give medical advice. So I'm a new fit practitioner. I work with people who have issues with their nervous systems. And so what I do is I just preface the conversation that nothing in this video should constitute medical advice. We're not trying to treat or cure any condition. If you have a medical condition, we suggest that you speak with your doctor about it, that you allow them to treat you. What I do for myself is I work on diaphragmatic breathing exercises. I'll breathe in through the nose, out through the nose. I breathe in over 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and I breathe out over 8 seconds. And whenever I breathe in, I'm trying to fill my belly full of air. And whenever I breathe out, I'm trying to create a vacuum and suck my belly in towards my spine as much as I can and activate that diaphragm so that I can get deeper breaths. But also by doing that, you're activating the celiac branches of your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the master controller for the rest and digest nervous system. And it's also the gateway of inflammation in the human body. It's your 10th cranial nerve. It's referred to as the wandering nerve. And if anybody has a issue that would cause their nervous system to be in a heightened state, a hyperarousal state of fight or flight, they're always going to have an issue with their vagus nerve. And if you rub right here behind the jaw, so below the earlobe, you should be able to rub around in there and find a really kind of a sore spot. And it'll be like a little lump right in there, and ooh, that hurts. If that's the case, then you're carrying increased vagal tension in your body, which means that you've spent some time in a state of high stress. And so what we try and do in our facility is help people to release those governors that are impeding their physical performance, because there's a direct continuum between your ability to protect yourself and your ability to perform at any level. And so when we're talking about, athletes, if you've got an athlete that's wanting to be able to slam dunk on a basketball goal, but they're wearing their mask and they've been worried about the virus for 3 months, and so their body's in a state of hyperarousal protection, their athletic performance is going to decrease because they're not geared towards that right now. They're geared towards, oh my gosh, I've got to worry about this thing that's going to get me. I've got to worry about this tiger that's going to pounce on me if I go and say happy birthday to my grandma. Hopefully that makes sense to somebody.
Yeah. So what do we do about it? Stop worrying about the tiger?
Diaphragmatic breathing is a great exercise. Literally taking time every day. For me, it's taking time every day to pray and meditate, and I'll meditate on scripture and just get some breathing. I go outside, I walk out of my yard barefoot and get some sun in the morning with my coffee. So I'm practicing grounding, and just there's something really therapeutic about walking outside in the grass barefoot and drinking a cup of coffee in the morning and just enjoying the sun.
Especially fresh cut grass. Oh yeah.
Get it before they spray the chemtrails and the air is nice and clear and the sky is blue. Diet is a huge one, guys. The anti-inflammatory diet, alkaline diet, the Gerson's diet is a great one that they use for people who have cancer. And it's like cutting out meat, and you're eating, it's almost kind of like a vegan diet, but you're eating foods that are really, really high in antioxidants. And there's a Gerson's recipe that Laura and I do pretty regularly. It's a garlic soup. And I'll literally buy cloves and cloves of garlic, and I spend a bunch of time just peeling and cutting the garlic. And then it's this soup that's got some vegetable broth and a whole bunch of garlic. And I mean, we put some other seasonings in it too, but that's basically what it is. And we'll eat that for a couple of days. Everybody smells it coming out of our pores, but it kind of resets the immune system when you eat that much of it. And then the other thing that we've been doing is 3-day water fasts. And we do that with either with our church, or we'll do it as a couple. I do them independently, but there's a spiritual benefit to that. When Jesus was talking to the disciples after they weren't able to cast the demon out of the epileptic boy, the Bible talks about how this kid, he had multiple demons in him, and he would go into convulsions, and it would throw him in the fire, or it would throw him in the water, and he would almost drown. And so the disciples tried to cast this thing out, and they weren't able to do it. So the father brought the boy to Jesus, and he says, I tried to get your disciples to cast this out, but they weren't able to. And Jesus says, "Oh, ye of little faith, how long will I be with you?" And he cast the demon out of the boy. And so later the disciples came to him and they said, "Teacher, why couldn't we cast it out?" He says, "This kind only comes out through prayer and fasting." And so he wasn't talking about a super demon, although we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers in high places. And there's a hierarchy in the demonic realm. And so if you ever hear somebody talk about different levels, different devils, there's spirits that are assigned to warfare with individuals, whether they're believers or not. There's a spiritual battle going on. But what Jesus was talking about in that was a type of faith that comes from engaging in fasting and prayer that you don't get from prayer alone or from just reading your Bible. And so there's an amazing transformation that happens in our own mind and in our heart whenever we're able to, dedicate that time, whether it's a Daniel fast or whether we're doing a water fast or whatever it is. And so what I've started doing is regularly just doing short water fasts with water and maybe a little bit of lemon. And while I'm doing that, if you do it for at least 3 days, it's like a total reset to your immune system. Boom. And it's really incredible whenever you dedicate the time and whenever I'm just really deliberate and methodical about what I'm doing, and I know that I've got a goal that I'm looking to accomplish. And what I found out whenever I started doing this is that for the first few days of my fast, I would get really discouraged, and I would get, angry and depressed and feel like, what am I even doing this for? And so I started researching, why do I feel that way? And it's because whenever we do that, whenever we fast, we're starving the flesh and we're pressing in to the eternal. We're pressing into the spiritual. We're pressing into the divine in an attempt to get closer to God. And so it increases the pressure in the spiritual realm. And it's something that it's really freeing. If you have any strongholds, anything that you're trying to break on your life, and of course I overcame a chronic illness that I dealt with for years and years, and I haven't had any symptoms for almost 4 months now, praise God. And that was something that they told me I was going to live with forever, and it was never going to go away. I mean, they tried to take my arm off, for goodness sake. Wanted to cut it off at the shoulder. I'm so glad that I didn't listen to them on that.
Oh, dude, I'm so glad too. Just having this sucks. I mean, I can imagine having it, like the gal who had her arm bitten off, Bethany Hamilton. Yeah. Wow.
Hey, can I touch on something real quick that I think's really efficient? Kind of a killing two birds with one stone. When you're making your garlic soup, you are not only keeping yourself at bay from the boogeyman, but you are definitely keeping yourself at bay from vampires. So you are totally in good shape with that one.
It encourages social distancing.
So does wearing a pair of underwear inside out with skid marks on it around your lip. That'll keep people away. I'm not shitting you. It really works.
Anal particles.
Anal seepage. With anal seepage on the skid marks, that's a distance insurer.
Wetzel says, my mask has character. That's just the character that's built over time.
Oh man.
Oh man, I love you guys so much. Ian, it's always so much fun to meet with you and have you in here. I just love it that you come grace our show every month and a couple times a month. This year or this month, this will be 3 times this month, which is awesome sauce. Total awesome sauce, man.
I love you guys.
I can't tell you how thankful I am for you. And so, yeah, what a great episode. Do you have anything else that you would like to add to what you've already said? I think the neurological response that we're seeing out there, I think you really did a great job of explaining it, and also giving some people some ideas of what they can do about it. I, of course, always want to include Kangen water in everything. And I've got one question for you in regards to the water fast. Is there any reason why somebody should use Kangen water instead of just regular old plain old water for their water fast?
Sure. Absolutely. You're not stripping the minerals out of it like you are with bottled water and reverse osmosis. And it's actually going to, the whole goal physiologically of the water fast is to reset the body and reduce inflammation and to bring everything back to normal. And Kangen water is the absolute healthiest water that you can put into your body. And whenever I do a water fast, that's all I drink is Kangen, 9.5. But, like I said, I haven't stopped selling machines. I'm just not out there repping their brand because I've tried to get the company to come out and back up some of the things. And the only thing that they could do is release compliance documents that basically say that I'm not supposed to talk about their water. So if I can't tell somebody what the benefit is of buying a ionizer, then why are they going to spend thousands of dollars to buy a machine to produce water that they could get out of their tap?
Yeah, I recently saw from McGaffin what we're allowed to say about the water, which is basically nothing.
Yep.
Like we can't even say that it gets pesticides off of our foods. We can say that it makes them taste better.
Yep. Even though there's studies showing that on PubMed that strong alkaline water of 11.5 pH will remove oil-based pesticides off food.
Yeah.
And that's been part of the demos since, as far as I know, since the company was offering that. Oh, here, let us show you how to get this off. It doesn't come off just washing it with tap water. Soap and water won't take it off. That was like a major selling point, and now you can't say that?
Any idea why? I mean, I get playing possum and keeping the FDA off your back, but
it's because people literally came out and said things that they should not have said. There were things that were said that blatantly should not have been said, and the company has a target, and so now they're trying to redirect to get the target off of their back.
Yeah. And we know they're a target because when this is another thing I learned from McGaffin. They had a big network marketing hoo-ha where they made all the network marketing companies come into whatever, and they used Enagic as the poster child of what not to do.
Yeah.
And so Enagic is all freaked out. And then the other side of it is that we are the, quite frankly, we are the biggest nemesis to them and their bunch of bullshit. We're the biggest nemesis. We're their biggest problem. We're 75% of the equation. All these other companies, all these other nutritional companies, whatever kind of companies they are that offer great products, blah, 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 whatever, they're only 25%. We're 75% of the equation. We are the biggest threat to their system. That's why we are being singled out as enemy number one. Plain and simple. That's the way it is. But I'll tell you what, for me, all that does is strengthen my resolve and strengthen my desire to be part of this company and to share the word and to share the truth and to share all of this. It just makes me stronger because these people are evil, they're criminal, they need to be eliminated, and whatever, they're illegal. They shouldn't even exist. There's no constitutional bounds for them to even exist in the first place. And it's my goal in my life to see them abolished. It's one of my goals. And I'm going to keep working towards that goal. And I'm going to keep doing it by doing what I'm doing and sharing the truth and sharing the love and sometimes sharing it with a little bit of tough love. Because sometimes you need a little bit of tough love. I know I've needed it throughout my life. I know other people need it. Sometimes they don't like it, but tough. I love you, but I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. It ain't going to happen. I might get some particles from my anus that'll make it to your nose, but brother, I love you so much, man. I love you so much. And Wets, it's good to see you here. Rod Dar, love you too, buddy. And I would like to give unless anybody else has anything they'd like to add, I'd like to give a short prayer, and then we can get on with our process. We got a world to change.
Do it, buddy.
Our Father in heaven, I want to thank you for this incredibly blessed day, another beautiful, incredible day. I want to thank you so much for Ian Rood, our brother, the Voltinator. Lord, I'm so thankful that you brought this man into my life, that you continue to bless him, that you continue to give him faith and strength to fight these demons that are all around us. And I ask that you will give us the strength and the faith to learn from his lead, to follow his lead, to be able to help others to do the same. That we know people are out there struggling, Lord, and people need to understand what's taking place. And we ask that you will give us the ability to help be that messenger, to be that love, to give that tough love when necessary, to give the soft love when necessary, but always, first and foremost, with your truth and the truth, and help people to see what's going on around them. We ask that you will help people to stop just taking the word of the things that they see around them and instead look inside. That they will look inside, that they will look to you for the strength and the love and the truth that is going to set them and all of us free. We ask all of these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, our Savior. Amen.
You guys are awesome.
I love you, man. Love all you guys.
You too, man. Love you guys.
Thank you guys for being here. We'll be back for more fun tomorrow. And keep it up, man. Don't forget your hugs, kids. And we're out here. We got the world to change. How are we doing it again?
One glass of hydrogen-rich, oxygen-saturated, supremely hydrating 9.5 at a time.
Amen, brother. One lightning bolt in a box, one informative guest, one incredible family, one fun and exciting show, informative. You know, we learned something really good today. We'll never look at particles again the same as long as we live. Love you, brother. You guys make it a great one. Get out there, change the world. Do not forget your Love you guys. Bye for now.
Bye bye.